for eternal affairs sing to raise our spirits in great despair. Through the ashes of oblivion, quick and unseen like the dragons of spring, for we owe no debts and bow to no king. Every war has its cost and we've paid, one by the bond of the body we've made. A war with the goal that the battle starts now. As the demons listen, we strike them down, fighting back the rifts of blood. Sent from the sky like an angel in need, give them news to strengthen and words to heed. Heaven's house is set alight, we're knocking on the gates of hell tonight. Broken swords and dragons' bones scattered all the way back home, beating to the sound of flashing steel. When the road heals down, shattered tales and legends told, strengthened by the hymns of old, weathered out this fighting from his throne, so we sing a traveler's song. Play out a spell in your sequence of chords to inspire and sharpen our rusted swords, echoing the whisper of the trees. Creep along a path where 1,000 paths fail, from the thick Westirian jungle trails. Come from afar to set prisoners free, to dark tangled depths from the open sea. Swords and dragons' bones scattered all the way back home, beating to the sound of flashing steel. When the road heals down, shattered tales and legends told, strengthened by the hymns of old, weathered out this fighting from his throne, so we sing a traveler's song. Chances don't come cheap, so keep alert and on your feet. An ancient spirit's song will heal our wounds, unabashed by our defeat. Spot the bloodstains on these cobble streets, a message to the gods to see us through. Ever heard, get rarely sung, so raise your voice and praise the sun. Call a new rebirth to keep us strong. Countless souls along the path, lost to fiends and lives of wrath, will return to play our final song. Dragons' bones scattered all the way back home, beating to the sound of flashing steel. When the road heals down, shattered tales and legends told, strengthened by the hymns of old, weathered out this fighting from his throne, so we sing a traveler's song.
Hello everyone and welcome to the stream. So happy to have you all. I was on mute. Yes, we were not wiggling like the devil today. I thought Aviator's Traveler's song would be a fitting song to introduce us to some D&D tonight. So, by the way, welcome everybody. Thank you, Turkey Fluffs. Hello, Cygnus. Hello, the Schmendrick. Hello, Black Skull. Elisa, the Holy Priest. Hello, Vandinolo, my favorite spine-free #1 wiggler. Hello, Master Fail. And hello, Ryan. Welcome. And the Olivia Crowley doing a lurk. I love you, Olivia. Thank you for coming by. I'll give you a shout out in a bit. And Ryan, I see your redeem, and I will do that in a bit. So I am sorry about being muted at the start. I was wildly unprepared. I was so hyped. These hype levels are off the fucking charts. Commence da wiggling. Can't catch me, all wiggles, friend. But yeah, I hope everybody had an amazing weekend. I'm so happy to see you all. Thank you for shouting out Olivia. I really appreciate it, Cygnus. My weekend was pretty good. It was sad that D&D on Saturday got canceled again. But, hopefully this Saturday it won't. But we'll see. It's over 9,000 even. Golly gee. Love you too, Olivia. You're such a sweetheart. And by the way, our very own Olivia Crowley is about to hit partner. She's gonna be a partner demon/vampire lady. So, be sure to check her out. She has the best voice in all of Twitch. She plays retro games and MMOs and other silly stuff. So be sure to check her out. Aw snap, almost a year, NJ Chef. Ain't that wild? Thank you for the resub. I hope you enjoyed your Astolfo. Arise, brave knight. You're so silly, Olivia. It's funny when you do the crying emoticon like that. I just imagine, since you're also a vampire, it's the fangs, and you just came here to suck. But yeah, so my weekend was pretty good. Otherwise, I watched a bunch of movies with Yuko. We watched The Nobody together, which was good, with Bob Odenkirk. Is like suburban dad is John Wick. Then we watched Equalizer 2 with Denzel Washington, which was good. That's for after stream. Oh, Olivia. Olivia suck emote when. And then I showed Yuko the Rock Hercules movie, because it's not a very good movie, but it's a fun movie. And so we watched that. So that was that for the weekend. It was a lot of that. And then me playing around with Clip Studio to make that sweet Obsidia conspiracy picture. That took probably like an hour and a half to make, because I had to be constantly looking up controls for Clip Studio Paint, because I'm not an artist. I've never used a digital art program, so I kind of have to just Google everything when I have a question. But we did it, Reddit. And then here we are, back in the work week. I was working and twerking today. Talked to my therapist. We got my letter all sorted out for my breast surgery, so I'm super hyped about that. I should get the official letter by the end of the week. Is that the amazing, famous, and cute Death Knight VTuber Obsidia? Oh my gosh, I think it is! Hello, Keelie, my cutest little shadow dragon, so small. Getting over her sickness, but, I tried to keep her in my pocket as long as possible so she would stay warm. She's just a little dragon, she can't help it. Be sure to check out Key and to check out Turkey Fluffs. Turkey Fluffs is my favorite lusty busty turkey VTuber. And Keelie is my favorite little shadow dragon. She also streams Breath of Fire 3, even though I'm going on hiatus for it. And she is absolutely adorable. She rars so cutely, and she's going her 1-year anniversary stream soon. So be sure to check out the cutest little dragon ever. Hello, Tyler. Welcome. Happy to have ya. And then I'll do Ryan's redeem right now. Oh, Ryan, thank you so much for doing the redeem. You do literally every stream. Ever since I started it, like 10 months ago. So I just want you to know, Ryan, I'm just saying what we've all been thinking. And that's that you, Ryan, yes, you are my little PogChamp. And there's nothing that can change that. There you go, Ryan. But yeah, and also, today was the day that lots of people got animated emotes. So, Helie got animated emotes, Turkey Fluffs got animated emotes, Hamatobe got animated emotes. So you're gonna see a lot more cute wigglers around, I tell you that. She can't be famous, she didn't buy followers unless... I bought my followers the old-fashioned way, by being cute. By being a sweetheart. But yeah, so, what is on the agenda for today? Oh, it's simple. First of all, gender is a social construct. Secondly, we're gonna talk about some D&D. We getting animated in here. We always getting animated. Hype and animated. Goddamn Death Knight bribes. But yeah, so the idea for tonight is we're gonna talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I've been working on my homebrew setting, so I'm basically gonna rant about it for a while. If you have any questions about what I'm saying, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, you know, let's do D&D discourse. You have questions about D&D, you wanna you want to ask me about my own stories and stuff. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for at this point over 20 years. I started when I was 13 years old, and I've been playing ever since. So I've got quite a history with D&D. I've played many D&D settings and rule systems over the years. So the basic idea of mine is it's kind of like a magic steampunk setting in a failed state. That's like the easiest way to explain it. I borrow very heavily from Eberron and Iron Kingdoms. And so those are like two of the primary sources I used for like inspiration for stuff. In addition to everything I just stole from pop culture, anime, movies, TV, etc. Because remember, half of D&D is stealing ideas. Hello, Phil. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you, Phil. Scratch my eye. How are you doing? Phil VT, number 13. But yeah, so I'm going to go through a bunch of stuff. I'm going to try and get across some of the core concepts. And I have Clip Studio Paint open. So you're going to get some bad drawings to demonstrate some of the things I'm trying to explain. You've been playing longer than some people's marriages last. I've been playing longer than some people have been alive who have watched me. That's a wild thought. I was like, if you're 18 years old, I've been playing D&D longer than you've been alive. Obsidia got that MS Paint open. You're goddamn right. Yeah. Hello, Alistair Dia. Welcome, welcome. There basically is Gundam D. I bet you, with a high degree of certainty, Phil, somebody has homebrewed a Gundam D&D setting, and like in worst case scenario, there's a lot of settings that deal with giant robots and anime themes, and I'm sure somebody has made that before. It's one of the most famous anime franchises ever. Somebody has had to have made that. Also, hello, Cross. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you. For those of you who don't know, AP Crew is a wonderful group of streamers, and Cross is the VTuber member of them. They stream all kinds of games, everything like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Paladins, etc. They're great people, great friends of the channel. Be sure to check them out. Puts a Gengar in D&D. There, it's done. Yes, so you are getting an art stream. They are getting an art stream as well. Um, I think, you know what's funny you mentioned that? I've actually, hello Aradia Lacroix. First of all, I got a shout out. For those of you who don't know, Aradia is also a D&D enthusiast. She actually streams as, well, she streams, but she's also the DM of Yulia, everybody's favorite Royal Knight VT VTuber. Their Curse of Strahd Dungeons and Dragons game on Yulia's channel. I think on Tuesdays. So be sure to check her out. Be sure to check out Yulia. They're great people. He's running that has giant robot animals with Gurren Lagann inspiration. Oh, Suzumi! Thank you for the raid! Welcome, Suzumi. Suzumi is an awesome VTuber who streams games like Milsim stuff, like World of Tanks, World of Warships, Elite Dangerous. They're also doing a fundraiser for Trans Lifeline, and you know, you should go check them out. Also, speaking of fundraisers, we have exceeded our 4th charity fundraiser goal of 1,250. So now we're moving towards 1,500 as we go into the last 9 days, or I guess 7 days maybe. I don't know how much is until my 1-year anniversary. So the last week or so of my charity fundraiser is happening. So if you want, type !charity into chat. It brings up my Tilify link. You can go check it out. And you can choose to donate or at least spread word about it. I would appreciate it. Every little bit counts. This has all been made possible by everybody here and all the wonderful people who have come by my stream and opened their wallets and their hearts to donating to Trans Lifeline, which is a cause near and dear to my heart. They're a trans suicide prevention and support network. So be sure to check them out. How was Yu-Gi-Oh, Suzumi? Oh, love you too, Suzumi. So yeah, I've actually played Palladium. I didn't play Rifts. I know about Rifts. I actually sort of played the Palladium, not the Palladium, the Rifts Savage Worlds rules setting. But I did play Manhunter, which is a Palladium rule set that's like space cyberpunk stuff. Was watching your Darkest Dungeon VODs. I forgot it was in the chat, but that was before. Oh, what was your original username again, Tyler? I don't remember. It was okay. I suck. Relatable. You got sent to the Shadow Realm. It happens to the best of us. But yeah. So that was a fun game. I actually played 3 different characters in that adventuring party in Manhunter. I was an intelligent AI, who was a Valkyrie. Her name was literally Valkyrie, which was an acronym. And then which I actually spelled out, so it does mean something. And then I played a human, like, charisma character who was very sleazy. And then I played a Skaven mad scientist who I only played him like 2 sessions, and he was the favorite character of the entire party. Fucking Skrin. I love, because the 3 characters was Valkyrie, the AI, Excel Durandal, the human, and his name was X''EL, because where others fail, I excel. And then my Skaven was one second, I gotta get into what is my Skaven voice. Skrin a Wirdzik! Brilliant scientist! And so that was Skrin, who had Warpstone and could make, like, devices that duplicated magic powers, and he was hilarious. So yeah, we played that for a while. It was a lot of fun. But this is a D&D 5th edition homebrew setting that I hope to one day have a party together to be able to stream it. Feeling so phlegmy, and I don't know why. And so we're gonna jump over to a different part of the throne room so I can start drawing and educating. Ta-da! Also, I'm going to turn on some BGM. Hopefully this is not too loud. Let me know how the volume level is for it. It is our classic fantasy dark and world music 24/7 on YouTube. So let me know the volume level. Oh man, it closed out. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Education. So currently there's a lot of placeholder like names and ideas in my game because some of it is pending on I'll turn down the music. Some of it is pending on oh, I jiggled myself. No. Pending on what the party that ends up playing in it decides. So the basic idea I wanted was to make a setting where I lay down the framework of the setting and some of like the things that I think are relevant ideas, and then the party kind of fills in the gaps. So a lot of things are much more overarching than like specified. So the setting is currently the placeholder name is Forlorn Legacy. Right here. So that is the placeholder name of the setting itself. And this hello Mumbina, welcome to the stream. Happy to have you. Is Gundam Wing steampunk? No, Gundam Wing is not steampunk. If they were like steam-powered Gundams running by coal, but no, that is a different genre entirely. So the setting is called Forlorn Legacy, and this is actually a holdover name because my original idea for the setting was that it was going to be a much darker setting that was a failed state where heroes basically defeated the Dark Lord, but they didn't actually like try and put the country back together again. They just left the evil empire to kind of crumble apart, and of course, factionalism and strife and other bad things ensued. And so the players were going to come in, and that's why it's called Forlorn Legacy, because it's kind of the sad legacy that these people have to deal with. So that's the old title. I'll probably change it at some point when I think of a better, more applicable title. But so that's what it's currently called. And a lot of my notes about this are kind of just like things I've scribbled down over the months and stuff to describe them. So the first iteration was a Dark Lord themed setting. So, however, after talking to Sif, everybody's favorite Night Dad VTuber, I ended up changing it to be much more of a evils of capitalism. So the basic idea of the setting itself is that it's going to be taking place in a country that the government of it was overthrown by an outside force, and basically it's now being kind of led as a puppet regime that is divided in a lot of ways, and the players are a part of basically a foreign slash, if players decide to be from the country itself, like mercenary group or organization working for one of the other organizations I've written out and stuff that are working in this country to do whatever they set themselves out to do. So that's the basic idea of it. I'll go into more detail about the like the actual history of things, but a couple of the concepts we have going on here is that well, first of all, there is very clear parallels to real life. I base this off of stuff that has actually happened in in the 21st century. But one of the things that is going forward, I don't like no race as a theme. I don't like racism, period. And I don't like it as a theme in D&D. I don't feel like racism is necessarily adds anything terribly useful to a setting. I think it only feeds into stereotyping and basically giving people open license to kill a certain group simply because of who they are. And so I don't use race as a theme in the setting. Like, there are lots of different races you can play. However, ideology and like national background and stuff are much more significant aspects of the characters and the world itself. So, like, culturally, yes, you're an orc, you get orc stats and stuff, but much like in Eberron, you identify more strongly as an orc from the now occupied country of Erixia than you do as, like, being a member of the orc race. So that's one of the things that I use in I don't like racism. It's usually coming with really brave and controversial stances. Hello, Litro. Welcome, welcome. Happy to have you. Litro, the bronze, everybody's favorite quarter dragon. Welcome, welcome. How is Final Fantasy? How are you doing, Raiders? I just started talking about my setting. I hope Final Fantasy was good. We're talking about the kind of some of the core ideas of my D&D setting right now. Welcome, Meister Azuma. Happy to have you. So yeah, I don't use race as a theme in the setting. For people like Schmendrick and Brainbuster who play in my Eberron campaign that I do on Tuesdays, that's also a thing that I do. Like, I have like racial flair to people that they meet, but mostly people are bad because of racism, but like bigotry as a whole, capitalism, and religious fanaticism. Beat both the Lich and the Fire Snake. Half the game done. Hell yeah, Litro. Happy to hear it. Hello, Linkgood. Welcome to the stream. So that's one of the things you need to know, is that race is not a theme. In addition, I'm going to take something that I saw was posted about the Critical Role Tal'Darai setting, just because I think it's frankly a very good idea, period. AKA, never hear me stuff. Oh, you're Phil's twin brother. Nice to meet you. Happy to have you, Sakura. Welcome to the stream. So, for people who are of mixed lineages, such as, like, you want to be half orc, half dwarf, just pick whatever race you want to use statistically and take traits out of either. So, like, that's something I liked, because it is real racist and very weird that only, like, certain races could be, like, could basically intermix. And I don't know why. I know that it was kind of a simplicity thing of previous eras of D&D. However, it is dumb, and it's not really a reflection of what I think, how a character should be viewed. So, you want to be part orc, part elf, cool. You probably got a real... I can imagine that character as like an elf with just like really pronounced like teeth, like fangs, and a real surly attitude. Just a jacked elf. But yeah, so I'm taking that. Also, one of the things that I'm using is Dragonborn are not necessarily like dragon people. So a Dragonborn, for instance, could be any race with dragon traits. statistically, you use the Dragonborn stat line, but you treat the race as, like, you're an elf who has draconic bits about it. It's much more of having a draconic lineage, like a tiefling, more than you're like, I'm a dragon person. Kobolds are still kobolds, because everyone loves kobolds. And like the idea of cities in strange places on top of tree, bottom river. Okay, good to know. And so, yeah, so you're just like you basically take draconic traits out of whatever race you do. Furthermore, Warforged are present. Oh, geez, I gotta squish that. Sorry, guys. This isn't like an ideal. Whoop, that didn't work. Okay, we're gonna try without that. So Warforged do exist. However, they are can learn and use shots. Warforged are not the constructs like they are in Eberron. Because to me that's just like a very Eberron thing. So in my setting, Warforged is actually basically a cyborg. So there will probably be a given civilization that pursues enhancing their bodies extensively with basically magical cybernetic bits, and they are the Warforged. So you basically could become Warforged. However, if you did that, you'd replace your previous race, so not everyone would be about that life. So in that, the Warforged are basically cyborgs. So you're a Warforged. You might be like a dwarf who's got like extensive cybernetics about him. To the point that it's replaced a lot of things like, you know, your ability to breathe and stuff. As you're powered by magic, essentially. Wake up the fuck, samurai. We got a city to burn. Cyberpunk D&D. But yeah, so that's another concept, because I know people like Warforged as a race, and I didn't want to use the classic Eberron Warforged as an intelligent construct. So instead, my Warforged are cyborgs. Additionally, I am a big fan of style. Style over form. And what does that mean? And that means that for me, my biggest thing is that you want to be cool. You want to play something as long as it already like has a stat that you can derive from. You can basically do it. So for instance, we're gonna use my character in Alistair's D&D game I play on Saturday, which is Rin Val Ren. So Rin Val Ren, she is a half Oni. She is a half Oni. Now, for those of you who've played enough D&D, you know that half Oni is not a real race in D&D. So what is Rin statistically for playing D&D? She uses Bugbear stats. So she uses the Bugbear race as the basis for her being a half Oni. And to me, that's fine. Like, you're using something that is already statted, already balanced, doesn't matter to me. The way you want it to be represented, I think, is more important than the race itself. And this is extra useful when you're working in a system where racism is not the most important part about it. Yeah, Bugbear stats are good, and it's why Rin is the badass she is. But I thought Bugbear was a fitting race for a half Oni, especially because Rin is not magical, which is a part of her backstory. If she was magical, she would probably be closer to a Furbolg for like what her abilities would be. But because of her particular lore, she is a bugbear as her race background. So, for instance, she also uses two Kasurigama, which I get a lot of flack about from my friends who actually fight doing like weapons training and stuff, because Kasurigamas are a two-handed weapon. But the idea is she fights with them kind of like Kratos's like swords on chain. So she uses two Kasurigama, but for those of you who aren't like playing in like a Rokugan style setting, Kasurigama don't exist. So instead, these are whips. She statistically uses two whips, but they are statted. I mean, they appear, their glamour, if you will, if you play Final Fantasy XIV, are Kasurigama. We're going to Flavor Town. Yeah, so those are some examples of style over fun. And so that's like what I'm a big fan of, is as long as you use like an existing stat line, how it looks, how like, you know, you can make something look however it wants. You want your great axe to do great sword damage? Fine. It's a great axe, but it does great sword damage. Who cares? Like, that's not a hill to die on. Yeah, it's rule of cool, basically. So that's one of the principles I use in pretty much any game that I run. Because I just determined it's like a lot more fun for you to just make shit up. Like, you want your tiefling to use elf stats, cool. I don't really care. So those are some of the core principles behind it. Now, in addition, one of the things that's a great rule of adopting that flavor is amazing, and I don't see why it should always be strictly book lore, and I've already homebrewed a whole world. Yep. Yeah, it's like, oh man, I made this entirely homebrew world, but I gotta use the PHP rules. Like, no, I want to be a half dragon, and I'm gonna use Dragonborn stats for that. Okay, cool. Cool, bro. I want to be a halfling half dragon, and I want to use kobold stats. Fuck yeah. Like, I was talking to Sif about using, like, making a rat person and just using either kobold or, like, goblin stats for it. So there you go. Now, let's go to my next thing. So, toss the PHP out the window. We don't do this stuff here. We do what we want. Yes, and also, something that I'm playtesting on my Thursday game is it's a rule from Iron Kingdoms called Essence ASI. And the idea of an essence is a given idea, such as strong, or I think it's called mighty, agile, intelligent, gifted, etc. And what this does is it replaces the ASI bonuses of your race with whatever your essence is. So, for instance, you're an elf. Elf normally gets +2 to dexterity. However, you want to be a fucking jacked elf. You're a big, strong elf. You're a warrior elf. And so you choose to take the mighty essence instead. What the mighty essence does is it gives you a bunch of special abilities. Like, it gives you powerful build. It gives you the bonus crit damage, like that orcs get. I mean, that half orcs get. And it you could choose between either like +2 to strength or +2 to con. And so you get to choose what your main stats are going to be, which, you know, independent of your race. And I think that's useful because you want to be an elf. Your racial choice, like for what class you play, should not be entirely based on what race you wanted to play. And so, yeah, it's better than the Tasha's one because it has no limitations. It's like you're gifted. You get to choose either +2 intelligence, charisma, or wisdom, and your special ability is you get like 2 cantrips from a given list starting out. And that's your racial bonus, in addition to whatever your normal race does. And then you get your separate +1, because every race is a +2 and a +1 put together. You get your +1 from what you choose as your background. So that's like a reflection of your job would explain what your other stat bonus is basically going to be. Like, you chose to be mighty, and you were, say, a combat engineer before you became an adventurer. And being a combat engineer, you choose to do +1 to your intelligence bonus. So there you go. What would a beam rifle weapon stats like the base weapons of D&D? I don't know. It depends on how big the beam rifle is. Yeah, not every ex-member of the species is going to be the same, and it gets rid of stuff like oh, hello, Kyuji, the Black Ace. Welcome to the stream. Happy to have you. Thank you for the follow. I hope you enjoyed your Astolfo. I can't remember where I was going. Oh, but yeah, so like, you know, you want to be an orc who also has +2 intelligence and +1 like constitution. Fuck it, yeah, you can do that with the essence system. It's like the idea, you know, it further goes with the idea. I don't like the predetermination of a character feeling bound to play a given race because they chose a given class. And if they wanted to do that, they would have to be suboptimal. Like, you want to be an elf barbarian, for instance. Elves can do Dex barbarian. It is a thing. It's real wonky, but you have great AC. But you want to be a barbarian and you still want to play as this feral elf. You shouldn't feel suboptimal because you chose that. So you could be this jacked woodland elf who has +2 strength instead of +2 dex because he was cutting down trees instead of being graceful. Oh, thank you for the sub, Litro, using your Prime Gaming. I hope you enjoy those sweet, sweet Obsidia emotes. Rise, brave knight. But yeah, so that's why I'm playing using the Essence system from Iron Kingdoms. Oh, 3,000 confused, or 30,000 confused bees. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for the Astolfo. Thank you for the follow. I hope you enjoyed your Astolfo. Welcome, welcome. And thank you for the resub, Phil. Oh my god, shit is happening. Thank you for the resub, Phil. 7 months running. I hope you enjoy those sweet, sweet Obsidian emotes. Rise, brave knight. Also, Signuwu is. Thank you for the gift sub to the Schmendrick. I hope he enjoys those sweet, sweet Obsidian emotes. Rise, brave knight. And we got a hype train. Hype Pepsidia, hype Pepsidia. Oh, thank you for the follow, Sakura Wagdom. Happy to have you. I hope you enjoyed your Astolfo. Oh, Snapples, we're on a hype train to choo-choo Citia. Cobalt Barbarian who dual-wielded hand axes. He was awesome. That sounds awesome. But yeah, so yeah, I think that your lifestyle should be more important for your stats than your race. So that's something we're playing with, and it's wild because there is an exception to this. Humans in Iron Kingdoms, Iron Kingdoms is predominantly a human-based setting. It's so most people in it are human. So each human culture basically gets a different set of skills or special abilities and stuff. And so since for my setting I'm using the Essence system for that to give an extra boost to humans, because normally humans in baseline D&D just get +1 to every stat. Humans in my setting get to choose an essence, so you get the +2 and the essence bonuses, as well as you can choose to either be a variant human from the PHB, so the extra feat and the extra skill proficiency, or you could choose to be a cultural human from Iron Kingdoms and just pick one of the cultures that gives you your special ability. And because of that, in my playtesting D&D group on Thursdays, I have not one, but 3 humans out of 5 characters for the game, which is like unheard of in 5th edition to have that many humans in a party, because human is such a disadvantaged race in a lot of ways. So the other 2 members of the party is a Trollkin, which is a special race from Iron Kingdoms, which I don't normally want to have played, but Sif really wanted to play him, so I let him do it. And then Peculiar Little Rabbit is playing a Swamp Hag, Yanti Pureblood, who's a real crotchety kind of barber surgeon doctor. You should post all these homebrew rules on your server. Yeah, I can do that at some point. A lot of them are still being playtested and stuff. There is not a Gengar-like race because there aren't really statted undead yet. Humans do be humans. Human in D&D +1 to all human, in Obsidia +2 to spine collecting. Yes! But yeah, so that's one of the other homebrew rules. Oh, thank you for the 500 bits, NJ Chef, for the hype train. Hop, 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 and hop, we're on to level 2. Ashira Nova, Bakawa, Dr. Tony, Chopper, Omoshiro, Tanaka, give me some party. Welcome, Hashira. Happy to have you. Can confirm about the spine thing. Damn, caps lock. Okay, so there is that. So there is also time to talk about cosmology. So this is everybody's favorite subject. Oh, I can't do that. No. Oh, thank you for the follow, Hishira Nova. Welcome to the stream. I hope you enjoyed your Astolfo. How do I do that? I have to deselect. I'm not very good at Clip Studio, so I don't know. So we're gonna delete this stuff because there you go. So here we go with the idea of cosmology. So the important thing you need to know about the world is this is the world. That is your planet. And having a planet out there in the multiverse, there are numerous other planes that come into contact with it. In my lore, the world is basically surrounded by 2 things. I should probably use a different color for this. We'll go. Potato planet. So the world is surrounded by 2 things, and I will explain what they are in a second. And also, simultaneous with this. Stop. So this is your basic. I'll do a note for this. Cosmology. This will be the thing. The most important things that somebody will know from this stream is me doing hand-drawn circles with my mouse to explain this concept. So we'll say that inside of this is prime material. And okay, that's the prime material plane. This is the prime material in D&D parlance is basically the Earth. This is the world that mortals live in. This would be like, America, there's Europe, all this stuff is on your planet. Hello, Scarth, my heart. Welcome, welcome. In the beginning, God was drunk as a result of that. So the 2 planes that most closely come into contact with prime material are the Feywild, or the Fey Quartz, because it embodies more than one thing. So we're gonna go orange. I always forget how this works. There we go. Oh, that's not working. Alright guys, I'm trying to... As I previously stated, I'm not very good with this, and I don't know why when I start typing things, it... Oh, there we go. Makes it so I can't type. So, this red field is... These are the Fey Quartz. The Fey Quartz represent a portion of the natural existence of a planet and its peoples. And because of that, they are reflections of the very primordial aspects of existence and nature. And in mine, the Fey Quartz actually combine several different entities that exist in D&D normally. So, for instance, this would be the Feywilds. This would be the Shadowfell. And this would also be the Astral / Ethereal. So each of these different concepts is represented. Oh, thank you for the hype train, everybody! We did it! Level 1 hype train! Choo. And so these concepts are each basically embodied by the Fey Quartz. And so the Wilds and the Shadowfell form the primary things with that. And so the Shadowfell... Oh, that's the eyedropper. Sure. Okay. The Shadowfell and... Oh, it's the wrong color. These things are the same. Hello, Shady Bryce. Welcome, welcome. And these form the bubble around the planet. So, because of that, they have the closest connection to the world itself. And the Fae are incredibly important, and there are 5 different courts of Fae in my setting. So this is an important cosmological note because it embodies some of the things that are different between it and normal planar cosmology and normal D&D setting. So, Feywilds, the Fey Quartz embody one bubble that embodies the planet. The other bubble... This one... Go to this... Sorry guys, having button difficulties. It's supposed to be an arrow. It's really getting you hyped for Wednesday, isn't it? Hello, Dark Elf. Happy to have you. Boopin' the cutie. Thank you, thank you. These are the elemental planes. So, the 2 bubbles around the Earth consist of the Fey Quartz and the elemental planes, because they both come into contact, reflect, and also project aspects of the natural flow of the Earth itself. And they overlap with each other in a lot of ways, and they both have close contact to the prime material. So this is a basic note just on planar cosmology. Now, in addition to that, we have the concept of that the soul is the building block of all life. Building block of all sentient life.
The game was rigged from the start.
This is important because the game was rigged from the start, kid. Oh, in this
I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
I know writers who use subtext. We're all cowards. Thank you for the Dangerous to Go Alone. Astolfo will help me explain this. So the soul is the building block of all sentient life. In my setting, God did not create man. People are basically aliens, for lack of a better term. Most mortal races are actually the descendants of planeswalkers. And so, in the early days of this world, the barriers between prime material and all the other planes of the multiverse were very thin. And so, during the early days of that, people from all the different planes of existence would reside on this world and, manipulate it to their various aims. And people would settle there and follow the paths that would happen when you live on a place long enough, periods of decline, growth, etc. Eventually, as these people began to settle here, the barriers between prime material and the other planes became stronger. And this would cause distance and separation between each of these. So as the prime material pushes outwards, it helps deflect the planes away from the world itself, which stops the flow of extra planar beings and extra like the different planes from being able to come into contact directly with the world itself. And so people have the souls, and the soul is what all sentient life derives from. And souls actually created the gods. So the soul created the gods. In the earliest days of the prime material, there were no gods, and the various sentient races lived in a more primitive, what we would perceive it, lifestyle. And in the early days, things like the Fey Courts, or things like the Fey Courts, or the elemental primes, would act in a pseudo-deific capacity to sentient life. The reason why I say pseudo is because these things, both the elemental primes as well as the Fey Courts, they do not get power from soul. They do not derive their existence from the existence of souls. And because of that, they don't actually need any mortals. Mortals can be useful. Mortals can be fun to play with. But they are really independent of mortality. And so, because of that... Oh, hello, the Queen of Hell 666. Welcome to the stream. Happy to have you. Thank you for the follow. I hope you enjoyed your Astolfo. And so, because of that, they acted in a more agricultural societal aspect as nature gods, animistic spirits, and they would give things like druids and rangers and warlocks and stuff would derive power from them, but traditional clerics and stuff did not exist. I will call you a good dragon in just a second, Leetra. I want to finish this thought. So that was how they formed. But as societies became more collected and began to become increasingly complex, political polities became more complex, the soul started giving birth to basically platonic ideals that would connect with the existence of a sentient being. And so I'll explain that in a sec after I do Litro's thing. Oh, Litro, thank you so much for doing this redeem. I want you to know that I'm just saying what we've all been thinking. And that's that you, Litro, yes, you are such a good dragon. You're such a good dragon. And I truly mean that. There you go, Litro. Have a good dinner. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for the raid. Oh, hello, Cerezer. Happy to have my cutest little Foxo. Cerezer the Fey Witch VT. Be sure to check her out. She's been playing a lot of Vampire and Octopath Traveler. She's the best little Foxo you could ever hope to love. She's a big sweetheart. I am in fact online, Cerezer, and I am explaining cosmology poorly. So, humanity created what I like to think of, for those of you who are familiar with the basic concepts of philosophy, as a Platonic ideal. And a Platonic ideal, in short, is basically the truest form of a given thing that could exist. So there could be a Platonic ideal of a chair, and everything that we make as humans is a kind of replication of that ideal, an imperfect replication. So by the soul creating these ideas such as, war, love, law, death, etc., they created gods who exist as embodiments of those ideas. However, that makes it so that the gods then have a relationship feeding back into the soul. They need the soul to exist and believe in them so that they can continue to basically draw their power. So gods need mortals, and arguably more than mortals need gods, but the mortals don't quite realize that. And so, because of this, what people don't realize is that gods, what they believe their gods to be, are actually aspects. An aspect is what a given culture, civilization, etc. believes a god to be of a given ideal. So, for instance, you are the god of law. God of law exists as an ideal. Now, your culture might believe God of law to be Judge Dredd, which is a harsh enforcer of absolute obedience and law. However, another culture might view the God of law to be a truly balanced Lady Justice seeking to prevent tyranny by enforcing standards of practice, standards of rules, etc. So, both of those are technically still the same God. They're both still the same God. They are just different aspects of that God. And so this means that basically there are universal gods, but people believe that they're actually different entities. So because of that, that means that a given aspect is only around as long as it exists, as long as people believe that it exists. So what that means is, over time, given aspects can become different, either via the culture changing, the culture's norms changing. Like suddenly Judge Dredd can become softened over the years. Otherwise balanced Lady of Justice can become more hardened, etc. Or, in the case of the clash of civilizations, or conversion or cultural assimilation, a given aspect can just be wiped out. Like, a given version of that god can no longer exist. And instead, it will get replaced by whatever is basically the aspect that the first culture believed in would get stronger, while the aspect of the second culture would get weaker. And so it would basically be becoming itself more in that particular version. So that's a given example about how the gods work. Certain gods have more commonality across culture. And those gods are, we'll call them primordial forces. Now, the primordial forces, trusty tool, primordial forces are gods that embody things that are so fundamental about mortality that they are largely unchanging across culture. And what that means is basically the aspects of these given gods are always going to follow under very certain parameters. So, for instance, the goddess of death, which is so far the only goddess I've statted because she has rules that apply to more things. More believe in Talos, the stronger spouse. Yeah, basically, Michael, basically. So, for instance, the goddess of death, Termina, she is the goddess of death and the eternal cycle of life and death. Her basic core functionality of embodying death is largely the same across all cultures and civilizations in the world. So, that makes her more directly, I would say, what is the word I'm looking for? Proactive than some other gods may be, because she has more of her core essence as a universal trait. And so she is, every culture has a goddess of death, and it kind of abides by the same rules as Termina. And so the primordial forces are just like real fundamental things. Like love, death, hunting, like stuff like that, or like the primordial aspects of what it is to be alive. And so this pathway has not been really figured out by mortals. Mortals know that there are gods, and everybody has them. Every culture has them. And people know that a lot of them have stuff in common with each other, but they don't realize yet that they're all the same thing. That they're all the same god. So one of the major cultures in my setting, in the modern setting, is called the United Alliance. And the United Alliance is basically like a European Union style entity. And one of the things that they've done is they've created a lot of cultural norms. And a part of that was the creation of a thing called the Universal Divine. The Universal Divine is basically the pantheon that the entirety of the United Alliance accepts as the canon, true versions of the gods. And so they've all agreed doctrinally what those gods are, who they are, what they embody, and they then think that that is the most correct version. So if they go interact with other cultures, they strive to make all gods into aspects of the universal divine. Any questions so far? Also, Michael, yes, termina is actually the Latin word for end. Like literally a door is a terminus in Latin. And so my goddess of death is Termina, and that's why Terminus is actually the full name of Termi, our faithful little skull friend. No, because at the end of the day, so an aspect in relation to it becomes so different from its core being. So the problem with that is they all derive from a basic belief. So like at the end of the day, law is still law. Law that is used for tyranny, law that is used for justice, they're still law. And so it wouldn't become a different god because they are going back to just different fragments of the platonic god itself. In addition, there really aren't any evil gods anymore on a significant scale. And the reason for that is, over time, much like in real life, people don't really... You may have your particular belief about what, a given major religion is in the modern world of Earth, but at the end of the day, none of the religions actually worship an evil being. Like, nobody views their particular deity as evil. But I'm going a step beyond that simple subjectivity to where the idea of people venerating an evil god itself used to happen more. But as societies became more complex and they became more large in scale, evil gods began to, the aspects of given ideals that were what we would consider evil gods began to get subsumed by the main aspect of a given religion in a good way. So, for instance, no, they're just, people don't worship a god of absolute hatred. That's like just not a thing people do. Hello, NASCARlo. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, like people aren't going to worship the god of destruction and absolute hatred. They'll worship like the god of war, and they'll view god of war through a lens of righteous indignation. They will believe that they are correct, but the idea of simply hating people for the sake of hating them is not something that is, in the modern world, advocated for or perpetuated. Yes, we're talking theology, NASCARlo. So, all of the aspects of what would be evil have been either eliminated and attributed to external forces. So, external forces. There's no special meaning. It just means things that are either outside of the gods themselves, like people will attribute bad things in the world happening either because of extraplanar entities, such as demons, devils, or the Fae, for instance. Or they will be viewed as righteous or as judgment from a god for misdeeds. So go with another arrow. That's bad direction. Down here. So, or it's divine judgment. There we go. Oh, hello, Brainbuster. There's one god, Joe Pesci is his name. Praise me, Pesci. Thank you for the resub, Brainbuster, my wonderful mod. Happy to have you. Thank you for the resub. I hope you enjoy your sweet, sweet Obsidian emotes. Sorry, guys. I was getting distracted clicking things. All right. So, also, oh, thank you for the shout out, Brainbuster. Welcome, welcome, B. How did the rest of the collab with Seahorse go? Also, welcome, Sif. There's some onion layered world building. Thank you for the resub. 10 months, baby. I hope you enjoy those sweet, sweet Obsidian emotes. Can we have a shout out for Sif, please? One of my wonderful playtesters, as is Peculiar Little Rabbit. But had computer issues. Should be all good. Okay. Yeah, I'm explaining the nature of God right now. So all evil actions anymore are attributed either to external forces of the cosmos or of mortals themselves acting in misalignment with the practices and teachings of the gods, or they are the divine judgment of the gods themselves for your misdeeds. Previously girls bust for now. Yeah, I saw you doing Power Wash. So those are what are now in the modern world where evil things are attributed. There might be evil aspects in other civilizations that are not core parts of the campaign that I'm creating, because it's kind of focused on a particular region of the world, but that's why there are no more evil gods. All gods are at least believed to be good, but they also can be judgmental. Just that I did Catholicism when I was a little squirt. So there you go. So that is the nature of God. So because of this whole framework, gods, much like in things like Eberron or Iron Kingdom, or not, well, I'll say also Iron Kingdoms, gods are less hands-on in direct divine judgment and stuff. Instead, most things are carried out by mortals, interpreting and implementing the wishes of the gods. There is one very big exception to that, which is the goddess of death, which I will do another explanation for how the goddess of death works, because she has a lot more nuance to this system. Does God have its own will, not a personality or a character, but a communal force that dictates every god's action? The gods themselves are sentient beings in their own right. However, because of their unique creation as ideas on a Platonic ideal level, they are constrained to act within their nature. They have agendas and stuff, but they're kind of bound to be moving towards their particular aspects, embodiments, or to defend their particular aspect against an outside force. So, for instance, the god of, we'll say the god of law. The god of law has things that it's trying to do. However, the things it's trying to do are constrained by either a given aspect of law, making sure that it is doing what people believe it is supposed to be doing, as well as defending itself from external factors against the law. That would be undermining that aspect. So they're kind of, it goes back to the gods are really, they need humans, or they need mortals more than the mortals need gods. And the gods are in so many ways reflections of mortals and what they believe the gods to be. But you will not have a situation necessarily, like for instance, where the god of war is like scheming the end of the world. That's not really something the god of war does. And that's not really something that the god of war can even conceptualize. The god of war at his core, or their core, or her core, anything, depending on how somebody believes it to be, would be seeking to, what a given aspect of it would do. So for instance, if you're the god of war of, say, we're going to go with the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, they want to go fight and believe that they're fighting a righteous fight against tyrannical forces. And so the god of war thinks that's totally cool. And so it's defending the people that believe in them against external people, helping them see that they achieve victory in the face of enemies and threats to their people and civilization. So that's like what the god of war does. But because the god of war needs people need to believe in war happening, and it has to happen. You don't have this kind of suicidal drive to self-destruction, because it needs existence to exist. Yes, God is a mirror. I think there's actually a famous philosopher who said that God is a mirror. So that's a particular thing about this. So let's start. I wish I knew how to create a new page in this, but I don't. So I'm just gonna go create a new document. Okay, so there you go. That gives you the basic idea about the planes and that. So now we're gonna do everybody loves to see it, Obsidia's Big Fae rant. Big Fae rant. Because I love the Fae. So, in my setting, the Fae are, of course, an incredibly important force in the world. And they embody the very primordial aspects of the world itself and of nature. And so the Fae are divided into 5 different groups that all fall under the Fae Courts. There are the 5 Fae Courts. So we have number 1. We have the seasonal courts. The seasonal courts embody the core aspects of the cycle of the seasons. So, you know, summer turning into fall, turning into winter, turning into spring, turning into summer. Those are the seasonal courts. So they are divided between the very classic Fae courts of summer and winter. So summer and winter form the Fae courts. And they run in an eternal cycle, not to be confused with the eternal cycle, which represents life and death and rebirth. They represent the cycle of the seasons. And so basically during summer is the most powerful. Summer's power begins to wane as it goes into fall, and winter begins to take power, and then as it waxes during winter, etc. They are ruled by Queen Titania of summer and Queen Mab of winter. These are very classic. This is like Fae 101. And then every Fae, every one of the Archfae has a subordinate Archfae who is known as their knight. So for summer, Knight of Summer equals the Red Cap. Knight of Winter equals Banshee. I gotta shrink this. There you go. So yeah, these guys, each of them, and the knight usually acts as the more common wielder of the queen's powers and the queen's plots and ploys. Wife just brought me some strawberry cake and coffee. I'll take some. Thank you. You go for some. It's a little late for me to have coffee, but I guess I can make an exception. And so the Knight of Summer is the Red Cap, and the Knight of Winter is the Banshee. And so these are the seasonal courts. Then we have the Shadowfell Court. The Shadowfell Court embodies the ethereal plane, the astral plane, and the traditional Shadowfell. While the seasonal courts represent the actual natural world in perpetual cycle, the Shadowfell is basically the space between, it's the gap between the stars. It is the emptiness, the void, the realm where there is the reflections of the things that happen in life. And also, the reflections of things that happen in life. It is also the things that are reflecting existence itself, and it also is kind of it is really kind of the trash dump of the planar state, and it is ruled by Queen Morrigan, the Raven Queen. So Queen Morrigan, the Raven Queen, she is the ruler of the Shadowfell. And because the Shadowfell is this space that is a part of the fabric of the world and the reflections of the world, when a person dies, their soul goes to the Shadowfell. in the age before gods, in the age before gods, the Shadowfell would be kind of the last space a soul would wind up in. And the Raven Queen really, in my setting, she really leans into the Raven aspect of it. So she loves collecting things. She likes collecting stuff. She likes collecting ideas. So that's part of why the Shadowfell is this kind of dumping ground of the planes, is because these are all things that she builds and she gathers for herself, her shinies, basically. And so she also would take the souls and keep things about them, memories, traits about them, and discard the rest to basically drift in the Shadowfell until the souls were either consumed by something, deteriorated, or were captured by another planar entity. However, that changed with the advent of the gods, and I will explain that when I go through the backstory of the Goddess of Death. Queen Morrigan's knight, the Knight of Shadowfell, is Kate Sith, the Prince of Cats. There you go. Kate Sith is the Prince of Cats and the Knight of the Shadowfell. This may seem weird that the Knight of the Shadowfell is a cat. However, in some Celtic folklore, cats in general, Kate Sith and cats in general were representatives of death, and they were said to potentially steal the souls of the dead if you didn't appease them. So Kate Sith is the Prince of Cats, and he is the Knight of the Raven Queen. And I have to shrink all these. I got a lot of things to talk about. And so there's those three. Then we have the Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt is the Fey Court that acts as the enforcers of the seasonal courts. Good old Kate Sith, he's watching from the shadows. Yeah, the Wild Hunt acts as enforcers of the seasonal courts, because the Fey planescapes are basically the bubbles around the prime material, which means they most often come into contact with other planes of existence and potentially hostile planar entities. Hello, Cyborg Ninja. Welcome, welcome. And because of that, the Wild Hunt acts as the guards, the expeditions across the plains in the name of the Fae, protecting the Fae courts, but also kind of protecting the prime material in its own way, via indirectly. And so the Wild Hunt is a part of, but I'm going to draw this, it's related to... Wrong one? Okay. It's related to, but not actually a part of the seasonal courts. The Wild Hunt is basically whoever is the current dominant court, that is the court that the Wild Hunt is under the overall command of. No, it's not the Wild Hunt from The Witcher. It's not a bunch of space elves. And the Wild Hunt is the only Fey court that does not have a knight. But they are ruled by King Oberon. And the unique thing about the Wild Hunt is that they actually require mortal souls, but not to actually get power. Space ghost elves. I don't think they're actually ghosts. I think the Wild Hunt were space elves from another dimension that would come to Earth to come to the Witcher planet to basically like kidnap people and stuff, for like, because they were like enslaving people in their other dimension. But so King Oberon leads it, and he uses human soul or mortal souls to act as the hounds of the hunt. I'm like half here, all this being talk, I'm wanting to make me a map. Okay. And so mortal souls act as the hounds of the hunt when they are captured and utilized by the hunt, or if they contractually agree to join the hunt, because they need the souls to be able to journey beyond the plains. Because now that the barriers are so strong, actual souls are one of the few things that allow you to easily tear open holes in planar space. Carbon space elves by the time 3 rolls around. Gotcha. So yeah. So that's the wild hunt. And then finally, I'm gonna have to, like... this is gonna be not in perfect order. I'm gonna have to do 4 up here. Urban Court. The Urban Court is actually the youngest of the Fey courts. Because the courts all represent basically aspects of existence and of the world itself and nature and everything. And however, as the world has changed and civilizations have become more complex and more advanced, urban life unto itself and the urban centers and urban scapes themselves are basically their own environment. They are their own kind of ecosystem. And so over time, Fey entities kind of splintered off of the other courts and kind of congealed to become the Urban Court. The Urban Court is the youngest, and because of its unique situation, embodying urban scape, it is also the most outright predatory out of all of the courts. And it embodies not just like a city, but also when you've got what I'll call civilized, like, rural scape. Farming towns and stuff, places like that. Anything that has basically become a part of a greater civilization and has those kind of ties, rather than the more wild or more natural backgrounds that would make it fall under one of the seasonal courts. And the Urban Court is led by Pumpkin Jack, the Pumpkin King. He is the king of the Urban Court, and he embodies so many aspects of what it is to be basically a person in the modern world. He is the idea of the illusion of control over the world around you, and also utilizing the predatory nature of what it happens when you have enough people put together in a small space, and people inevitably fall victim to the issues that happen in a city or in an urban scape. So each of these different courts has different servants and stuff, but Pumpkin's Jacks are the most uniquely predatory in the sense of, a perfect example of what an urban court Fey would be is Pennywise from the It series. He is a creation of fear generated from people and believing in it, and the kind of stories that get passed around in darkened cellars and in quiet locales. And that kind of shadowy nature always, because a city is always churning through people. It is a city truly is a meat grinder in stone and steel. So Pennywise would be an example of a urban court Fey. Other examples would be like the Rat King, like rat monsters, ragmen, gremlins, messing with machines and stuff, causing mischief. What are they called? Scarecrows. He also embodies things like, rural people giving blood sacrifices or human sacrifices to make sure the harvests grow. I stole that from an episode of Supernatural. But that's the kind of stuff he embodies. And his knight is I have to move this in a second. The Pauper Prince. There you go. His knight is the Pauper Prince. So, I have descriptions for each of these different knights based on the fact that many of them were in my Eberron game. And so, they have usual forms that they like to take. And so each of these different courts as well has a particular identifier. Because in my setting, all Fae have a commonality that identifies them as Fae when they're trying to be Fae. So, for instance, all members of the summer, all Fae have cat's eyes. They've got like those very particular slit cat's eyes. The difference is in the coloring of them, which is what court you're a part of. So all Fae who are part of the summer court have green cat's eyes. All Fae that are a part of the winter court have blue cat's eyes. All Fae a part of the Shadowfell court have purple cat's eyes. All Fae a part of the urban court have orange cat's eyes. And the Wild Hunt's eyes are actually just the color of whoever is the dominant seasonal court. So that's like a ready identifier if you're interacting with a Fae, who they serve. And so, like, one of the examples of the Pauper Prince as a given form that he likes to take is a bloated elf with orange cat's eyes wearing, like, rich finery clothing that has clearly been patched and mended and cheap looking. Also cheap and gaudy jewelry everywhere that's tarnished. And he has basically gold snaggly teeth. And he's always ready to make a deal. But yeah, none of the Fae, because they exist as these kind of primordial entities, they aren't really evil. They just, it's like the fox and the scorpion. The fox has the scorpion on his back as he goes across the river, and he tells him like, hey, don't fuck with me as we cross or we both die. And as they get halfway across, the scorpion stings the fox, and when the fox is like, why did you do this? And he goes, because it's my nature. That's the Fae. And they are not entirely like villainous in the way that they deal with mortals. Like, while the urban court is people, children, poor people and stuff may disappear to the various creatures and Fae of the urban court, the Pumpkin King and the Pauper Prince are just as likely to make somebody into a warlock pacted to them, to see them basically try and overcome the very hostility of the environment they're in itself and become the predators that they so often fall victim to. So these people, they, ultimately the Fae love the entertainment of mortals. That is their biggest joy, is seeing is fucking around with mortals. But they will help you just as likely as they are just to cause mischief to you because they find it funny. So that is the basic summary of the different Fae courts that exist in the world. Because of the nature of gods being created by mortals as a part of civilization, there isn't actually like a nature god in my setting. The roles of nature god is largely attributed to either the Fae courts and or the elemental primes. And so, yeah, they will generally attribute things like, oh, a bad rainstorm, for instance, is more likely to be a result of the elemental primes or the Fae courts than, like, the god of the sea, for instance. So that is how it works. And so druids and stuff, they don't actually have to deal with the Fae because they don't get powers from the Fae, but they're generally attributed as to being something closer to those aspects that are no longer advocated. And this also means that urban druids are 100% a thing. And it's actually entirely logical to have an urban druid. And so if you're an urban druid, you don't have the kind of restrictions about using certain tools and stuff. But yeah, so that's that. So these always basically make up the nature gods of the world. Oh, thank you for the Big Death Knight hug, Alistair Neon. I'm happy to do it. Alright, get your hugging utensils ready, everyone, because I'm coming in deep. And a 3, and a 2, and a burr. There you go. A big Fey hug. From me to you. I hope you enjoyed it. But yeah, so that's the basics of the Fae in summary. Now we're gonna switch to a new page. So now we're gonna talk about some of the races of the world. So there are 2 types of Fae. There are I'm talking about D&D now. My spine is broken again. Think of all the wiggles you can do now. So the 2 types of Fae you have are basically the court Fae and wild Fae, or Wilf and wild Fae, which is a bit of a misnomer. Bad Fae and good Fae? No, actually, Lover. By the way, welcome to the stream, Lover of the Void, and thank you for the follow you did previously. Happy to have you. I want to rattle around like the skeleton I am. Hello, Vetricale, the Mad Mimic. Happy to have you. So the difference between the court Fae and the wild Fae is not necessarily good and bad. It is rather the form that they choose to take. The wild Fae, or I'll start with the court Fae, is what we consider traditional Fae. These are your traditional Fae, like Eladrin, Pixies, Shadarkai, etc. Gotta shrink this. So those are like the more traditional form of humanoid elven style Fae that you would see. And they're called court Fae because they're more closely attributed to their particular court and rulers than they are necessarily the idea of their court. Wild Fae are really everything else. They are beyond form. I'll call you my little PogChamp in just a second, Vetrica. I'm going to finish this thought. So the wild Fae exist beyond form. Like, my idea of how I treat most Fae that aren't traditional humanoids is I take an animal, a plant, and a substance, and I put them together in some combination, and that is a wild Fae. Think of them kind of akin to the spirits from Avatar, The Last Airbender / Avatar Legend of Korra. They look weird. They're always very alien, because that's a part of my core rules for how I think Fae should be, and I think the Fae should always be alien. They are something that is both in one part of the natural world, and in another part entirely divorced from it. So, like, for example, I had, a treant would be a wild thing. Another thing would be like, there was a guy that I talked to when they were in Queensmead, in my Eberron campaign. And Queensmead is the city that the ruling Fae Queen of the Seasons basically runs. And it was a summer court Fae that he was a bear with 3 eyes, one of them segmented like a dragonfly, one of them an onyx stone, and the third being an actual bear eye. he had one arm that was made entirely out of rose petals. He had another arm that was a stone claw, and he had a leg that was that of a deer, and another leg that was that of a like a stump, like a tree. And he just talked and stuff. He was just a normal dude, but that was how he looked. And so, like, the wild fae they're one of those things where they're creations of an idea of form that is no longer like how people understand it to be. Yes, an acid trip of a person. I had a stick bug with the head of a fox, and each of his feet ended in rubies. I had a troll I literally had an eladrin whose teeth were constantly rotating in their mouth like a Ferris wheel. Like the top row teeth was constantly rotating, the bottom row teeth was constantly rotating. Yeah, I always make my fae weird. They're all weird as fuck. And so back when actually I'll do Vetricale's thing first before I go back into the races that are fae descendants. So hello, Vetricale. Thank you so much for doing this redeem. I want you to know that I'm just saying what we've all been thinking. And that's that you, Vetricale, yes you are my little PogChamp. And there's nothing that can change that. Yes, Alice in Wonderland Nightmare Field. Yeah, that particular rotating teeth person was Professor Daffodil. She was a Fae Ladrin professor of basically Faeology at the university in Sharn. Oh my god, you're gonna make me do this explanation in my airhead voice? Alright. So, like, we've got the time is now 9:18, and we're gonna talk about, like, some Fae descendants. So, here we go. So, back in the day, when, like, the barriers between the planes and the prime material were, like, really thin, the Fae used to, like, live as, like, just another part of the world. And they, like, would live on the planet and, like, everything was fine. However, like, as the barriers became, like, thicker between the Fae planes and, like, the prime material, it became, like, harder for them to stay there. So, like, most Fae decided to, like, go back to their home planes, while some either couldn't for various reasons, or they chose to stay behind because they liked being on the prime material, they found the entertainment of it more enjoyable than being an immortal being back in the Fae Wilds. So these Fae who stayed behind on the planet became the progenitors for a lot of, like, the different races that we have in the modern world. No, the players are not also Fae. There are races other than Fae. There are just, like, several races that are Fae. So, for instance, we've got the seasonal Fae. We got the seasonal court descendants, which there's like two different kinds of Eladrin. There would be the Eladrin who are actually like the normal people who live in the Feywilds and who are immortal, and then there's the Eladrin who are now mortal members of the world who are just very closely associated to their original court lineage. So we got Eladrin, we got what we got else here? We got High Elves, we got Forest Gnomes, Furbolgs. I'm gonna shrink this in a second. Furbolgs and Rock Gnomes. This. It's a little scrunch, but it gives you the idea. So all of these races are descendants of original Fae. They're all various people who are like descended from Fae. Then you've got the descendants / the permanent residents of the Shadowfell court, which is the Shadar-kai, are like the normal Fae that reside in the Shadowfell, as well as there are Shadar-kai who reside on the Prime Material, who are mortal, and as well as Drow and Deep Gnomes. So in my world, there's not like some weird underground like Drow conspiracy to overthrow the planet. Drow are like just the Dark Elf descendants of Shadowfell Fae. And yes, I am always fighting the fucking Airhead Redeem. So these all are different races that are descended from the Shadowfell Fae. And what this also means is that generally, each of these different races will have, actually, I'll talk about that in a second. And the final Fae type are the Wild Hunt descendants, they're called Reeves, which are the Wood Elves. The Wood Elves are descendants of, like, the Wild Hunt. So, they are the original hunters that would, like, wander around with the Wild Hunt, being, like, cool people. So, these are the mortal, like, descendants of the Fae, and it's been, like, millennia since the barriers have been erected between the Prime Material and the plane. So, like, you know, as a whole, like, these people are mostly just, like, you know, Jim from accounting is a fucking, you know, furball, and that's just, like, what it is. Like, they have varying levels of connections to their original court lineage, besides, like, physical and ability and stuff. So, but they are all descended of Fae. That's a difference between them and a lot of races like humans and orcs and, like, halflings and dwarves and stuff, who are aliens. They're all aliens, while these things are actually descendants of Fae dwellers of the world. Another example of, like, some wild Fae that are mortal descendants. So you've got, like, you got the Trants, you've got trolls, and you've got ogres. So those are some examples of some of the wild Fae that have, like, stuck around. There are trolls and ogres and stuff that exist in the Fae Wilds, and they're much more, like, intelligent and stuff. But the ones that have since made their way, like, to permanently live on the mortal plane are these. And a lot of that has to do with, like, the original, like, folklore for, like, trolls and ogres being kind of Fae beings. So trolls and ogres, and goblins. I guess I'll do goblinoids as a whole. And so, yeah. In addition, I talked about the marks of distinction and how the Fae's eyes work. If you are, like, a mortal descendant of the Fae, like an elf, for instance, generally you're going to have the eye color of your court. People who are mortal descendants of Goblin D's nuts. Generally, people who are mortal descendants of the Fae don't have cat's eyes anymore, but they do still retain their original court lineages eye color. And with that, we've done our 5 minutes of airhead time. So, for instance, if you are a mixed lineage person, so we'll say you're a half-elf, for instance. A half-elf usually has eyes that are the shade of their court, as well as the shade of their mortal, like, race equivalent. So, for instance, if a half-elf was half of a winter court elf and half human, like a brown-eyed human, the half-elf would have brown eyes with a shade of blue. And you can choose which is like the primary and which is the secondary. That doesn't matter. That's just like what you want to do as a character. So, but yeah, that's like an identifier that they're descendants. So a lot of people are the modern day descendants of Fae. Does that matter to a lot of them? Not really, but it's a fun lore fact. And that's just a theory, a Fae theory. Okay. Alright, so anybody have any questions about the Fae? I know I've spent about an hour talking about Fae. So if anybody has any questions, let me know before I go to the next panel where I talk about death. Go back. Wait. Okay. So I think we can go black for this because we're talking about death. Alright. Death and other inconveniences. Alright, so we got death and other inconveniences. The winter quartz eye color is blue. It's icy blue. Summer is green, like an forest emerald green. Winter is icy blue. Urban is orange, like a pumpkin. Shadowfell is purple, and the Wild Hunt is a color that depends on which court is currently in season. Oh, there you go. So, in the beginning, when a soul dies, God damn it, went back to blue. I want you to be blue. Default to black. Get rid of the string. Souls go to the Shadowfell. Shadowfell when dead. That is a universal trait amongst all sentient beings. They all go to the Shadowfell when they die. Now, in the olden days, that was the jurisdiction of the Raven Queen. She enjoyed it a whole lot, collecting all the stuff that she did from dead people. However, in the modern world, there is a goddess of death. Her name is Termina. There we go. So, Termina, goddess of death and eternal cycle. So, Termina is the goddess of death and the eternal cycle. Death is not evil. Death is just a part of life. And that's the incarnation that she has. Some cultures may view her a little more dispassionate than others, but in most modern cultures, Termina is actually a benevolent being who is only trying to enforce the eternal cycle of life and death, because it's a part of natural life. So when Termina came into existence, her actually I'm gonna break this down even more. Shadowfell is run by Raven Queen. So souls go to the Shadowfell. The Shadowfell is run by the Raven Queen. So when Termina came into existence, she had a direct conflict with the Raven Queen. Because now there was somebody who was basically taking the things that the Raven Queen had. It was a necessary part of her job that Termina has to have some jurisdiction over the Shadowfell. The Raven Queen fought real hard against Termina, but because Termina was such a universal primordial force, she was empowered by the beliefs that people had for her to a point where she was more powerful than the Raven Queen. And so, instead of destroying the Raven Queen, because there was no reason to, Termina made a deal with the Raven Queen so that the Raven Queen would still be able to have a bit of her old power, but with some caveats. So Termina, runs your afterlife. Now, when you die, a couple of different things happen. One, copy this down. Scroll to where I had it written down. Okay, 5 things can happen when you die. 1, enter Shadowfell and delivered to Termina for should have remembered how to do this earlier. For reincarnation. So, step 1, when you're dead, you can go to the Shadowfell, and then the Raven Queen's sort of devils versus fiends conflict to an outside observer. I don't really know what you're implying, B. And so, thank you, Paladin Boots. I will adjust to myself. I'm sitting in lotus position in my chair right now. So, part of what the Raven Queen does these days is she acts as the kind of ferryman of the Shadowfell. And she doesn't do it specifically. She has her own planar servants called ravens, which perform the duty of ferrying souls. They're raven/crows, and they ferry souls from the Shadowfell to Termina. You can also marry your sister on this game too. Hello, Shania. Welcome. So she's got the David. There we go. In the sense of, here's 2 forests that ultimately seem to do the same thing, but are fighting each other. Well, they don't fight each other anymore. It got resolved. So, yeah, the Raven Queen's ravens will ferry the souls from the Shadowfell to Termina, where Termina will then reincarnate them. If the soul decides to do that. Because when you're dead, you actually have some decision process on what happens to you in the afterlife. You can choose to be brought back into the cycle through reincarnation. Or you can enter Shadowfell, delivered to Termina to be sent to God's afterlife. So, option 2 is you don't want to be reincarnated. You're a big fan of your particular god. You want the afterlife you were promised. So you choose to go to wherever is the afterlife created by your god for your belief system in them. And so with that, she ferries you there. Option 3 is enter Shadowfell, delivered to Termina, make a deal with her to come back as intelligent undead. I misspelled shadow. So this one this is what I was talking about in my conspiracy board for good licensed undead. So you have the ability, because in my world, intelligent undead There are two forms of undeath. The primary form of undeath is actually, it's consensual. You choose to come back as undead. Normal necromancy, like if you're just raising zombies or skeletons or whatever, that doesn't actually involve a soul. And so, because it doesn't involve a soul, you're basically just manipulating, like, a substance. Like, you're just moving around a skeleton, but the skeleton is no different than a rock or a branch or something, ethically. So, however, if you're an intelligent undead, that is the result of either the spontaneous form of undeath, which has a lot of, tricks to it. Like, somebody can come back as a ghoul, not by their own volition. Like, just the situation, kind of bands together and they spontaneously rise as a ravenous ghoul. Or you have the case of people... Yeah, it's a spooky puppet, basically, Sickness. Or you have people who, non-consensually infect other people with a form of undeath. Such as, a vampire who makes vampire spawn, a shade who turns other people into shades, etc. Those form of undeath are non-consensual, and they're super duper duper against the rules of Termina. And a part of her religion's job is to hunt down those kind of undead and return them to the cycle. So, however, you can make a deal. You can provide a good explanation for why you should be able to come back to life as an intelligent undead. And it could be for a myriad of different reasons. And if you make that deal with it, this is the art of charming a spirit and wanting to come back as undead, because people might they might have unfinished business. They might say like, hey, I want to come back because I want to be able to stay around and watch over my family as like a guardian spirit. And that could be an entirely valid reason to come back as undead. You choose not to take on an afterlife because you want to continue to tie yourself to the mortal world until, you fulfill your job. And then you can get cycled back in because you'll eventually die again because presumably somebody's going to kill you eventually. And as long as you kind of stick to, advocating not bad things in the grand realm of life and death, you can basically stay in that form. So there are reasons why people do. It's not often, it's not frequent, but some people will willingly choose to do it. Which brings us into option 4, which is enter Shadowfell, but I can come back as a skeleton with awareness? Yes. Yes, you can. And like, if you want to become a lich, if you want to become a lich, you can choose to try and make a deal with Termina to allow you to become a lich, or you could just say fuck it and become an illegal witch, basically. I mean, illegal lich, and then get a target put on your back by the entire Church of Termina. And so you enter the Shadowfell, but you worship Termina as your main god, in which case you go straight to Termina. Go straight to Termina and decide your next stage. So if you are like a priest or like a paladin or just a very devout servant of Termina, yeah, you can be a good lich. Undeath, in my setting, undeath is not inherently evil. There are evil people who do it, but being undead itself is not inherently evil. But once again, it's got consent rules. So you can't knowingly make somebody else undead against their wishes. And you can't make somebody else undead without Termina. Yeah, and necromancers act as, communing with spirits, communing with the dead, using, the dead as a tool to, help the living. and stuff like that. So, but if you have Termina as your patron goddess, when you die, you don't deal with the Raven Queen at all, which pisses the Raven Queen off a lot, as I will explain. You just go straight to Termina, and you have the most leeway in trying to justify returning to life. And so, like, for instance, if you worship her as your primary god, like, legitimately, you don't do, like, a deathbed conversion, you can have actually some control over what you reincarnate as, if you want. Or, you have a lot more pull in getting authorized to come back as undead. Like, especially if you're a servant, like a cleric or a paladin or whatever, of Termina, you have she is very likely to grant you a petition to return to life as undead to continue to to continue to further her, like, church's goal. And so that's what happens if you worship her very specifically as your patron god. Then option 5 is break the cycle. Big no. So yeah, option 5 is you broke the cycle. You did something you shouldn't have done. You might be like a ghost or a specter or a wraith or something who was created out of trauma, out of hatred, out of stuff like that. Like, they just were so bound to the physical world for their whatever reasons that they don't pass on the way they're supposed to. Or they can be like a form of undead who cheats the system, like an unauthorized vampire, an unauthorized lich, etc., who becomes that, and without consulting the goddess of death. And all of these are big no-nos in breaking the cycle. And while you can be a very powerful, very successful, independent undead person, or however other means you choose to break the cycle and become immortal, that gets you a big target put on your back. Because not only does the Church of Termina try and hunt you down wherever you are and return you to the cycle, but, as we will discuss, the Raven Queen's servants also do. You got a license for that, undead. So yeah, so that's basically how the afterlife works. Now, what does the Raven Queen get out of all of this? So the Raven Queen, because she rules the Shadowfell, which is the repository for all these souls, she gets into this bargain in the sense of she can take little bits of the souls that enter her space. As a part of the transition from life to death, she gets to basically pick away just a little odds and ends of things that person doesn't need. Finer memories, finer feelings, minor skills. Like, maybe you were able to do a double Windsor knot, and she takes your double Windsor knot from you. And because she's a raven, she always has to take something to give you something. Sounds ominous. So she always picks a little bit out of the the people who pass through. That's like basically what makes her complacent in this whole deal, is that she still gets what she wants. She just doesn't get as much of it. And she doesn't have absolute domain anymore like she used to. So that is death in summary. Does anybody have any questions about death in the afterlife? We are going to go to a new page. Scroll down. Going on a roaring rampage of revenge as a righteous lich to reclaim my not tied place. That is the backstory we all need. I don't know what to ask. Alright. So now we move on to Death Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. Quote the Raven. This is my job. Alright. So, quote the Raven, this is my job. So, here we talk about the special role that the Raven Queen plays in the nature of the afterlife. So, in addition to all of the Raven Queen's other responsibilities, and in addition to all of Termina's responsibilities, the Raven Queen also has beings known as ravens. Ravens are spirits that serve the Raven Queen. Real Raven 101. These spirits take many forms, and have become culturally involved for lots of different societies. So, for instance, because of the role that ravens have, example ravens. You get things like Valkyries. A Valkyrie is a given culture's interpretation of how they manifest the Raven spirit. Because the Raven, acts as the ferrying force of the souls through the Shadowfell. Become the goddess of the Corvids to undercut the Raven Queen. You're gonna be, what was it? Isn't it like blue jays or mockingbirds or something? Is it Corvid? So Valkyries are an example of ravens. Like a literal raven is an example of a raven. Some sin eaters, spiders. These are all examples of ravens in given culture. So, with this in mind, I probably just keep using the same clock. I like your adorable outfit, avatar, and model. Oh, this person. Sorry about that. I've had a lot of bad things about that guy from a lot of different VTubers, and I'm not gonna. So, sorry, Thunder Raiden. You have enough of a rep. And so, with that, we've got, since they are basically beings akin to Celestials, Fiends, etc. Since they're akin to those things, they have people that are descendants of them. Like, they've mixed with mortal kind over the millennia. They have mortal descendants. Mortal descendants. So, much like how you have tieflings and Azimir, there are Azimir who are descended from the ravens. Specifically, they are fallen Azimir. But not in the way you think. All fallen there are two kinds of fallen Azimir. There's, an Azimir who has gone bad, who broke bad. And then there is an Azimir who is actually a descendant of a raven rather than a celestial being. And this is based off of a D&D character that I want to play in Alistair's next campaign. So they have these mortal descendants of the ravens who are also called ravens. And there are not many of them. So not many around. Specifically, Yeah, Asmir. But you have to view it as the Asmir's like necrotic powers don't come from like evilness. They come from the fact of they embody a spirit of death, basically. So it's literally just channeling the energies of death, rather than being particularly nefarious. Now, there are specifically families that are descendants of these ravens that have these bloodlines of the raven within them. That's the most adorable thing I've heard. I didn't think it was that cute. And so, they, though, because they are mortal and descended from a raven, they have strings attached. So they get put in charge of enforcing the eternal cycle on Earth. Enforcers of the eternal cycle. So specifically, the Raven Queen makes these people be in charge of, helping the Church of Termina in ferrying souls that are stuck for whatever reason in the material plane back to the Shadowfell. And so, with that, there is unfortunately always a trade-off. Because the Raven Queen never gives anything without taking something in return. So, when a given raven dies, a new raven is born. Finds its way through the lineage. And the child has a very distinctive appearance from that of the adults. They all have white hair with black streaks. They all have black eyes with silver irises and pointed ears. And so they all look like that when they're born, and they're all born stillborn. So they're all dead when they're born. But when you see that they're in fact a raven, well, now I have to backtrack. I actually have to backtrack for a second. So, ravens do their job. They have a packed weapon. Ravens have a packed weapon. They all have a packed weapon of their particular family's lineage. Currently, in the place that the campaign will take place, there are currently 4 active ravens who have jurisdiction over the 4 cardinal directions. There are the Corvinius, of the West. Corvinius of the West, what did I name all these people? The Valkyrius. Valkyrius of the East. I wrote wheat. I like that idea. They're not the West, it's the wheat. I've never heard Asimir pronounced that way. Oh. I didn't realize I was saying it in some strange way. How do you say it? Well, I guess you can't type how you say it. Do it phonetically, Vaughn. How do you spell it? Or how do you say it? There is the Vorus of the North. And there is the Arachnus of the South. And each of these has jurisdiction over a given geographic area that is quite expansive. And they all have a pact weapon. So, for instance, the Corvinius's pact weapon is a greatsword. It's an executioner's greatsword. The Valkyrius, their pact weapon is a spear. The Vorus is a great axe. And the Arachnus is a series of, I think I had it as blades. Yeah, it's called their fangs, which is a series of blades. Or A's Mahir? What? Easy Mahir? I've never. Wow, that is weird. I've been saying Azimir my whole life, so I'm not fucking changing that. Shrinking it further. So yeah, each of them has a pact weapon. And this pact weapon is unique because ravens do not get what is this? Like I don't think I have an easy key for it, but they don't get the eternal cycle. So ravens do not get to utilize the eternal cycle because of their particular job. A raven, instead, when they die, their soul becomes one with the weapon. When they die, their soul becomes one with the weapon and stored with all previous users. So it's kind of like Avatar, The Last Airbenders, like the Avatar. Yeah, freaked it out. It is typing right now. So, yeah, when a raven dies, they don't join back into the eternal cycle. Their soul will become one with their weapon. Oh, there we go. Stored previous users. Their soul becomes one with the weapon, and it will be there for all time. And so the newest user of the given weapon basically gets trained by all the previous users who lend them their experiences and skills and lessons and stuff. It's kind of bleak when you think about it. Like, you know that you don't get to go to a good afterlife. You just become part of a sword for the rest of time. But you do serve an incredibly important role, because the sword or the given weapon is inherently magical and is especially capable of being able to return anybody who shouldn't still be around back to the eternal cycle. So, it's sad, and the strings attached is, in addition to your particular situation with the afterlife, they're all born stillborn. And what happens when they're stillborn is, alright, have a good night, Michael. Thank you for coming by and sitting out my D&D talk. And so, the downside of that is, when they're stillborn, they basically get pact sworn to the weapon itself, and by becoming pact sworn to that weapon, they are returned to life. They basically they're alive now. They're a normal baby that's alive, but the Raven Queen always takes something from them as well. So, for instance, like my example character, who was a raven, she couldn't laugh. She lost the ability to laugh. It's not like she doesn't feel humor and stuff. She just literally cannot make the sound of laughter, because that's what the Raven Queen took from her, as a part of her becoming pact sworn. And so These ravens are in charge of enforcing the eternal cycle in the world. But since the ravens can't be everywhere, they have talons, who are ravens, sworn servants. And so, because the ravens can't be everywhere, the talons basically fulfill the more common, everyday duties of helping deal with the dead and ferrying souls. So, a talon can be basically anybody who becomes sworn, basically becoming sworn to the person sworn to the weapon. And so, there's like hundreds and hundreds of talons in any given geographical region who basically do the day-to-day ferrying of souls around. While the ravens generally handle like bigger issue jobs and stuff. And hello, welcome to the stream, Sabo Jude. Happy to have you. Thank you for the follow. I hope you enjoyed your Astolfo. All right, and yeah. So that's the basics of being a raven. And they are the more day-to-day undead slayers out there and ghostbusters. In the geographic region that the campaign is set in, it is in the territory of the which layers? Oh, it's the wrong one. They're in the territory of the Valkyrias, because they are in the eastern marches of the lands, and so that will be the particular raven who's in charge of the area the campaign is set. And there you go. That is my intro lesson about the ravens. Does anybody have any questions about ravens and their purpose in the role of the afterlife? What happens if a raven decides they don't want to do their job? Well, yeah, if the given raven, for instance, at a certain point just kind of quits their job, it's not good. They still, basically they don't get any of the pluses of being a raven, but they do still suffer the same fate. So they will get bound to the sword eventually when they die, and it's bound to them while they're alive. And and if need be, they will send a raven hit squad after a raven who is trying to break the cycle. And then if the family decides they'd rather have you be stillborn, then there will always be other methods that the Raven Queen will explore, because she is contractually obligated to do this job on behalf of Termina in order to fulfill her duties. So she's gonna make a raven happen regardless, and she will make sure they get the weapon brought to them. But so far in the timeline, all of the 4 families of ravens have done this for several millennia at this point. It's like it's a great ticket to power and prestige for the family. So there's like no reason a family would want somebody to not take on the mantle of being a raven. I'm glad you think they sound awesome. I thought it was a cool concept. Alright. So yeah, so that is the spiel about that. If you have any other questions, we'll make a new page. Alright, so I've been talking for 2.5 hours, and I haven't actually talked about the campaign itself yet. I've just been talking about background lore. Okay. So another important thing you need to know about for this game is Arcanite. Button. Arcanite. the coal that gets you high. That magically gets you high. This is a placeholder name that I've been... Oh. Lore is important, lol. Oh, but yes, of course. Always be sure to check out our cutest, smallest wolf, Graf Yukiko. The sweetest of beings, who I love with all of my heart. The 99% of the souls of the Great Axe are totally down to be in there, but Steve fucking hates it and makes himself everyone's problem. How are you so cute, Uwu? Oh, Yuko! I love you so much, Yuko. Thank you for coming by. How is War Thunder? How is your flying your planes? I saw you looted, Zala. I've been just talking about my D&D lore for 2.5 hours. Yuko's heard me talk about this, all the time. I'm sure Yuko's sick of it, but I'm so happy to have you here. I just love you so much. You're such a sweetheart. For those of you who aren't doing it, please go over to Yuko's page. Give them a follow. They're hilarious. They're adorable. They're the cutest small wolf. They do lots of hill sim games like War Thunder and Call to Arms. They also play things like Mordau and Phasmophobia and Papers, Please. And they're just the cutest. Yes, you can grind it into dust. So how does it get you high? So Arcanite was originally a placeholder name. Can confirm it, 11 out of 10 stream, 100%. But I've kind of gotten attached to it. So Arcanite is it's a magic fuel. It's a magic ore that's basically raw magical energy in mineral form. No one knows the origin. No one knows the origin of how Arcanite came to be. Some people theorize it belonged to an ancient draconic civilization that existed in the world that was eventually destroyed. And because dragons are inherently magical beings, that their bodies and stuff became the ore, much like how oil and stuff is the bits of dinosaurs. And so some people theorize it's leftover substance from when the planes had collided and were so in so much proximity to the world itself. It's literally just like the essence of the planes. So yeah, it is a fossil fuel, is one of the theories, is that it is a fossil fuel. So it used to, about 200 years ago, 200 years before the current timeline, the Arcanite Revolution, or the Arcanite Revolution happened. And this was, previously, people used Arcanite to do things like make magic weapons, make magic items and stuff, because it's inherently magical. However, about 200 years ago, the nations of the United Alliance, which is a modern alliance of different industrialized nations, figured out how to use Arcanite on a mass industrial scale. They figured out you could refine and purify Arcanite into an industrial fuel. And this is the very basis for how the setting works. That is the very basis of how things work. Because once they figured out you could be able to use Arcanite to make all kinds of things, it rapidly escalated the technological level of those nations. And so it became kind of a universal asset. Like, you could purify it and refine it, and you can make it into like a liquid, like a to be the substance used for like an eternal torch or lighting system. You can use it as like coal for trains. You can use it to make factories. You can use it to make gunpowder, basically magic alchemical gunpowder, etc. And so, because of that, these nations were able to figure out how to use it to basically take them from, you know, traditional D&D like Middle Ages, Renaissance technology level, all the way up to basically the 1890s in rough technological level. Hello, Codename Ferret. You're not new, but you are adorable. Can we have a shout out, please, for Code, everybody's favorite silly British ferret boy? And thank you for coming by, Code. I hope you liked that that ferret 5-2D model I sent you. And so, but yeah, so they've been using that. So now the technology of the United Alliance is basically like the 1890s with some caveats. Like they have things like airships that are powered, you know, by Arcanite reactors and stuff. And so this is my silly little fella. So this is why I say this is a magical steampunk. So many things are justified by the use of industrial arcana. Hello, Virtual Kano. Welcome, welcome. How do you like me and I like you? Come and take me by my hand. And so, however, not every nation was able to use it or be able to go through that process. So, how does it get you high? It gets you high because it's raw magical energy. So let's go back to typing. So, new line. So, it's a narcotic in the sense of Arcanite is toxic. There we go. It's toxic because it's magical energy. It can be mutagenic. Mutagenic. It can also drugs. Count me in. I'm good, Kano. I'm just talking about D&D. It's toxic. It's mutagenic, and it gets you high. It's a narcotic because you basically trip out on magic energy. Trip out on magic. So Beacon has Witchers. Sure. And that, you know, it's funny you mention that because that's actually kind of the rationale for one of the NPCs that I statted out for the campaign. Oh, we got a big Death Knight hug, of course. Get your hugging utensils ready, everyone, because I'm coming in deep. In a 3, and a 2, and a burr. There you go. A big Death Knight hug from me to you. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, the withdrawal symptoms for it is because you're basically getting high on magic coal dust. It degrades your body because it's also very toxic. So it directly starts eroding away at the fabric of your body. But also, you begin to lose touch with reality as you basically start, like, your brain starts getting magic-fied. Yes, give me your spine, Black Skull. But yeah. God, that magic black lung. Yep. And so, like, a lot of people have a high attrition rate in, like, the mining and stuff of Arcanite if you don't take the proper precautions for safety's sake. Because prior to it becoming purified and refined, it's incredibly toxic. My journey ends here, but before I go, I'll rest in peace. I have to tell you something. Astolfo is fucking cute. You're 100% right, Kano. Hello, Aries. Thank you for the hug. Happy to have you. I need more spines. Always more spines. But yeah. So there's that. So that is basically, Arcanite is the catch-all for how all the technology is justified in the setting. Have a good night, Kano, and the sweetest of dreams. Thank you for coming by. And this is important because the background for why the campaign is happening is that the nation of Erixia, which is where the campaign is set, was an Arcanite exporter. Anybody have any basic questions about, like, what is Arcanite? It is my magical unobtainium. Okay. Now we come to the actual campaign setting. Erixia. So, Erixia is a nation in the eastern marches of the continent. Nation equal eastern marches of the continent. Erixia is a Arcanite exporter. In addition, Erixia used to be a mageocracy. Former mageocracy. Why is this relevant? This is relevant because they decided they didn't need to do the industrialization process for Arcanite, but rather use raw Arcanite. Oh, thank you for the flirty raid, Greylo. Hello, Puppy DM. Hello, Odatakana Arashi. Hello, Saki. Hello, Greylo. Thank you for the raid. How was Deltarune? I'm just talking about D&D, as I have been for almost 3 hours. But yeah, so they used raw Arcanite as a magical performance enhancer. So they would use Arcanite in the traditional means of making items and magic enhancements, but they went way more into that rather than refining it and purifying it. Hello, was fun as ever. 2 lesbians in game, almost a romance. Woo. You love to hear it, Greylo. You love to hear it. Oh, thank you for the follow, Odayakana Arashi. I'm gonna call you Arashi. Thank you for the follow, Arashi. I hope you enjoyed your Astolfo. Is fantasy Columbia? No, it's fantasy, fantasy Iraq. Yes, sorry, a mageocracy is a government that is run by mages. So it is an oligarchical, I don't remember how to spell oligarchical, but we're gonna go with that. It's an oligarchical mageocracy. Back into streaming. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear your anxiety is dying down, Greylo. Happy to have you streaming again. And so they were, so basically Eryxian society was mages and the mage knots. So it exports sand and misery and oil. So the society was the mages and the mage knots. This isn't truly background music. This is YouTube 24/7 fantasy radio station. I always get hit with copyright for it, but it's whatever. And so everything in society was based on whether you were a mage or not. However, the plus side was mages were treated better, but largely left normies. One second. Left normies alone as long as they paid taxes pull up the music for the Shire. As long as they paid taxes and knew their place. Okay, Greylo, I'll call you a PogChamp. Gotta run, so great for sure. Okay. Oh, Greylo, I'm just saying what we've all been thinking. Is it you, Greylo? Yes, you. You are my little PogChamp. And there's nothing that can change that. Here you go, Greylo. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sad I'm so late. Hello, Bassie. Well, you've got plenty of VOD to watch. Basically, everything for the last 2.5 hours was me talking about background lore stuff. The text is crossed out because that's just the default setting, and I don't feel like changing it. So everything is run by mages, and as long as you basically pay your taxes, know your place, don't cause any problems for the ruling government, kinda can do whatever you want. Oh my god, by the way, Odayakana Arashi, you are our 1500 person according to this Twitch, but you're actually 14.99. Many congratulations. I'm not world building in Clip Studio. I have a Word doc. I have a Word document of all this information. I'm just typing it up here so I can visibly display it to everybody easier. Yes, thank you for the raid, Greylo, and helping me hit this sort of milestone. It was supposed to be 1500, but I guess somebody unfollowed. But yes, thank you so much. I'm so happy we were able to hit this goal before my 1 year. My goal is to hit 2500 by my 2 year. I'm about as sad. Oh, hello, Castaway Wolf 777. Thank you for being the official, also 1500 person. I'm gonna have to do a special little shout out to Arashi and Castaway for being the two 1500s. Sorry guys, I gotta take a little snipping tool to show this. I hit 1500. But what? Oh, I don't want. What? Hell yeah! All right, just memorializing that. Match the donations to it. That's the goal. That is the goal. I named plant Arcanite directly into my forehead. Augers! Mage Stone now, baby! To go with 1500 followers, it's what we're bound to do. But because of that, so they were a mageocracy. Being a mage meant everything. Most people in charge were wizards because you can learn to be a wizard. It's an easier, path to power. And they ruled the top mages ruled the Arcane Conclave. That was the name of basically the government body that was in charge of everything. And they had representatives of the different schools of magic, so the 9 schools of magic, plus there were also people who were just incredibly capable, like sorcerers or alternate mages like blade singers or war mage, etc. And the idea was, it is a meritocracy, but it is a cutthroat meritocracy, where the strongest mages become the most powerful people, and everybody is trying to advance up or push down people that are trying to advance up. It's like Fae, but if they're less evil. And so as a side effect of this, they were all incredibly capable mages, the people at the top. And this whole system created a system of very powerful mages and mage training. People who were sorcerers were, they weren't stigmatized. There's no guaranteeing somebody is going to be a sorcerer. So they didn't have necessarily a set trajectory for your career. However, being a sorcerer is a highly desirable trait. Sorcerer is very desirable because being a sorcerer is like a cheat code to becoming a powerful wizard. You have innate arcane ability, that they can then utilize to teach you how to be a really badass magic caster. So if anybody is discovered to have a sorceress lineage, that is instant societal skyrocketing. You can go from, impoverished in the street to being a nobleman just because somebody figures out that you have sorceress blood. And because they wanna marry you into their families so that they can get sorceress lineage brought into their family as well. It's good marketing. And then, what else was there? Okay, so we're actually coming up on about 3 hours at this point. So I've got a lot more stuff to talk about the actual setting itself, but this is probably a good place to end. It's free real estate, baby. Whew, that was a lot of talking. Let's hop on over to a different part of the throne room. All right, everybody. Thank you all for chilling out with me during all of this. I really appreciate it. Part 2 when? Not only if Sorcerers in 5e were as good as people in important. Part 2 right now, please. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know that it's very different from what I usually do for content, but this is something very near and dear to my heart. I love Dungeons and Dragons. I love world building. I've been working on this world, for many months. So I'm happy that I can share some of it with you. There's a lot of talking. But yeah, part 1, we talked about lots of lore of the world, the cosmology, gods, the universe, and everything. Part 2, hopefully we can talk about the actual campaign setting itself, what happened to Erixia, and how the players get involved, basically. I'm glad you thought it was cool, B. We love to see it. Yeah, if people like this content, please let me know. I'm gonna post it on I'm gonna post on YouTube and everything. So if you wanna check it out, please give it a like, give it a positive comment and stuff, because I really do enjoy doing this. I enjoy doing this more than I enjoy playing video games, to be honest. But I do also like playing video games. You rated 5 out of 5 wiggles? Hell yeah, thank you, Vaughn. Even. Love to see those wiggles. But yeah, I hope you guys had really a lot of fun. If you have any questions about the setting, anything I talked about tonight, you can always let me know. As was stated earlier, these are my socials. If you want to follow my Twitter, if you want to give me a follow here on Twitch, a sub over on YouTube, where I also have YouTube exclusive content. You can also join our Discord, the Eternal Citadel, and be a part of our incredible community and get to talk to me more. Yeah, please feel free to do that. We've also continuing to do our charity stream charity fundraiser through the entire month of January. We're hoping to hit $1,500 by the end of my 1-year streamiversary on February 1st. Every little bit counts. We're raising money for Trans Lifeline, a trans suicide prevention and support network, and every little bit counts. I really appreciate it. I want you all to know that you are all beautiful, valid, and amazing people, and you guys really make this whole experience worthwhile. And so I'm really happy that I can share something I care so much about with you guys, and that you enjoy listening to it. Because, as I always say, this is like my real passion, is this stuff. So I'm happy that you enjoy it. And so I hope to be able to do more with this. We are going to be doing our next stream is going to be Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be doing a Obsidia drawing and learning Blender stream. Yeah, we're probably gonna do it on Monday. Since it's, yeah, the 1st is on a Tuesday. But yeah, it's gonna be me learning Blender. Hopefully you guys will enjoy learning Blender with me. And also, you know, doing more drawing shenanigans. It's just supposed to be really comfy, really chill. I can talk more about D&D while I'm at it. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. And then Friday, we're going to be finishing Crusader Kings 3, the grand finale of Crusader Kings 3 and the end of the Obsidian Empire under Empress Vetra Kale, the Mad Mimic Queen. So be sure to check it all out. I really appreciate you all. Let's get our raid message going. By the way, everybody can do this. This is actually, anybody can type these messages. I'm just usually the one who does it. Call to Hugs is the follower raid message, and Knights is the sub raid message. Oh, hello, Stat Jam and Hammer. Nice to have you here. We're just finding a raid target for the night. You can already feel your inspiration coming back. Enjoy that D4. Use it on a good roll. Oh my god, I feel like such a nerd for saying that. And let's find a raid target for the night. Let me check my thing over here first. Oh. It's streaming right now. So, eternal nights on bearing hugs. Love to see all those lovely hugs. Oh, let's see this person. Sure, we're gonna go raid another night. They're playing Hades. They're Robert the Knight. They're another Knight VTuber. And we're gonna go give them a raid. I've never raided this person before. I know them indirectly through Julia's Discord, but it should be fine. Hopefully they take good care of you guys. There you go. Audio capture there. Woo! Hades, hello, Jarelli Belly. We're actually just raiding. Alright, everybody, a fellow knight. I'm always happy to raid another knight in need. Alright, everybody, have a great night. Send lots of love to Robert. Thank you all for sharing this with me. And I hope you all have an incredible, great night. Bye!